What do you think?
Whoa, very nice.
It's very cool, Bateman, but that's nothing. What do you think?
Nice.
But wait, you ain't seen nothing yet. White.
Impressive. Very nice. Let's see Paul Allen's. Oh my God.
Oh, no, no, no.
Martin Luther King, John Lennon, and George Clooney? What did these central figures all have in common? Peace, peace, peace.
Okay, on a serious note, the principle of peace, also known as pacifism, is what defined Japan's constitution for decades. After its defeat in World War II, Japan aimed to rebuild its economy and focus on policies that centered around more non-aggression and non-intervention.
Enshrined in Article 9 of the Constitution, it reads that aspiring sincerely to an international peace based on justice and order, the Japanese people forever renounce war as a sovereign right of the nation and the threat or use of force as a means of settling international disputes.
However, over recent years, Japan's economy has undergone a drastic shift, with its foreign policies remaining anything but static. Factors such as changing security dynamics, as well as regional threats, and shifts in political leadership have repositioned Japan's economic and diplomatic stance, thus pushing Japan toward a more proactive role in global security. What makes Japan's shift from pacifism to international engagement so compelling is through its distinct approach compared to its East Asian neighbors. This shift ultimately shaped its modern history, and while Japan's post-World War II constitution limited military expansion, its response to regional and global pressures contrasts from China's authoritarian regime and North Korea's military state, highlighting the influence of constitutional frameworks on national development in East Asia. But to understand what led to this decision-making, we must go back in time.
To the first Thanksgiving Day.
Understand the development of Article 9 in the Constitution and what led to Japan's evolution.
Firstly, the drafting of Article 9 was not merely influenced by Japan's internal pacifist nature. Instead, the U.S.-led Allied occupation from 1945 to 1952 under General Douglas MacArthur played a critical role in reshaping Japan's political and legal institutions. It was through the external attraction of pacifism that the U.S. could neutralize Japan as a future military threat while simultaneously secure itself as a reliable capitalist ally in the growing East-West divide. Thus, the U.S. aimed to demilitarize Japan in a way that served its post-war objectives, and the drafting of Article 9 was not completely idealistic, but part of a much broader and U.S.-centered political strategy during the early stages of the Cold War. Furthermore, Article 9's original purpose is best concluded as both symbolic and strategic. In a symbolic sense, it distanced Japan from its post-war nature, one that relied heavily on militarism and one that ultimately led to catastrophe. In a symbolic sense, it provided world powers and regional neighbors peace of mind that Japan would not resume to aggressive expansion.
Very cool, Bateman, but that's nothing. What do you think? Nice.
Despite this constraint, the establishment of the U.S.-Japan Security Treaty in 1951 allowed the United States to maintain a military presence in Japan and eventually prompted the creation of Japan's Self-Defense Forces, SDF, in 1954. Though technically not a military under constitutional interpretation, the SDF marked the beginning of a complex balancing act between legal pacifism and pragmatism. The end of the Cold War paved the way for a new global order that challenged Japan's security, most notably through the establishment of the Gulf War in 1990 to 1999. Japan's financial support for the U.S.-led coalition totaled over $13 billion and drew sharp criticism from allies. These critiques from allies would soon earn Japan the derogatory label of checkbook diplomacy, casting Japan in a different light and illustrating a broader reconsideration of Japan's role in international relations.
You ain't seen nothing yet. White. Impressive.
The 1992 International Peace Corporation law allowed the SDF to participate in UN peacekeeping operations, a significant departure from previous norms. This shift was not solely a response to external demands. Domestically, political forces within Japan, particularly the conservative Liberal Democratic Party LDP, pushed for a more assertive security policy. This push highlighted a growing consensus that Japan could no longer afford to rely solely on the United States for its security, especially given China's military rise and North Korea's nuclear threats.
Let's see Paul Balance. Oh my god.
A decisive phase in Japan's foreign policy transformation occurred under Prime Minister Abe Shinzo, who served from 2006 to 2007 and again from 2012 to 2020. Abe promoted a vision of Japan as a normal country, one that should not be constrained by a post-war constitution written under occupation. Under his leadership, the concept of proactive pacifism gained prominence. This doctrine emphasized Japan's responsibility to contribute actively to international peace and security, not by abandoning pacifism, but by redefining it. What I find most compelling about Japan's case is that it is so multifaceted and can be interpreted differently. I think one of the most interesting theories was the analysis of Japan's transformation through the lens of identity regime theory. Now, I know this circle looks straight out of a biology book, but let me explain. The concept of identity regime theory is uniquely applied and thoroughly explains how Japan's security identity has transformed from a peace state to an international state. This theory suggests that a nation's security policies are deeply intertwined with its collective identity. In Japan's case, the post-World War II pacifist identity, represented in Article 9 of its constitution, has been gradually reinterpreted to a more proactive international role. This shift reflects a strategic response to both internal aspirations for a normalized state identity and external pressures from allies and regional dynamics. Concrete policy changes accompanied this ideological shift. In 2015, the 2015 Japanese Diet passed a set of security bills that authorized collective defense, allowing Japan to come to the aid of allies under attack, even if Japan itself was not targeted. This reinterpretation of Article 9 marked one of the most significant changes in Japan's post-war security policy. While controversial domestically, it underscored Japan's desire to be a more autonomous and active player in regional and global security. Despite these shifts, pacifism remains deeply embedded in Japanese society. Public opinion polls consistently show strong opposition to military expansion and constitutional revision. Massive protests erupted in 2015 during the debate over security bills, reflecting widespread fear that Japan was abandoning its peaceful principles. Do you know what time it is? It's time for another interpretation of Japan's foreign policy shifts. Although Japan's foreign policy shift is often viewed in the lens of political and economic context, the concept of social identity theory can be uniquely applied to explain the tensions shaping Japan's decision-making. The theory suggests that individuals derive a sense of identity and self-worth from the groups they belong to, and this group identity influences attitudes and behaviors towards others. Applied to nation-states, it means that foreign policy decisions are not only responses to external threats, but also reflections of how a country sees itself and how it wants to be seen by others. This explains why Japan has often framed its military contributions in terms of peacekeeping, disaster relief, and maritime security. The desire to maintain legitimacy both domestically and internationally has led to a unique form of engagement that blends pacifist rhetoric with strategic action. Japan's foreign policy trajectory is particularly striking when compared to other East Asian countries. While China has pursued assertive military modernization and territorial claims, and South Korea has maintained a robust military posture due to its conflict with North Korea, Japan has taken a more cautious and constitutionally constrained path. Japan's distinct approach lies in its use of effective democratic institutions and an active civil society, which impose legal and public checks on militarization. Unlike other authoritarian systems such as China's one-party rule under the CCP or North Korea's dynastic dictatorship,
which often operate with limited transparency and without public accountability. These conditions hold greater potential for rapid military expansion and aggressive foreign policy shifts. Moreover, Japan's alliance with the United States has allowed it to expand its role without fully abandoning its pacifist identity. The U.S. security umbrella has given Japan strategic flexibility, permitting it to gradually increase its military capabilities while still claiming adherence to constitutional pacifism. Japan's shift from pacifism to international engagement is not a linear or complete transformation, but rather an ongoing negotiation between constitutional ideas, security imperatives, and evolving national identity. The reinterpretation of Article 9, increased participation in international peacekeeping, and new security legislation reflect a pragmatic response to changing regional dynamics. However, these changes are tempered by strong domestic attachment to pacifism and legal constraints. Overall, Japan's transformation from a pacifist nation to a more internationally engaged actor sets it apart from its neighboring regions. Its distinctiveness lies in its multifaceted interpretations of national identity. Japan's economic and political shift can be uniquely and effectively applied to the aforementioned psychological theories such as social identity theory and social regime theory, and viewed from differing perspectives. Within the broader context of constitutional politics, Japan remains a unique trajectory. Additionally, Japan's foreign policy shift provides a compelling case study in democratic systems, as it challenges the conventional wisdom that militarization is the only viable path to international relevance and security. Instead, Japan offers a nuanced alternative, one that is rooted in legal norms, historical reflection, and democratic legitimacy. As the 21st century progresses, Japan's model may serve as a moral compass, not only for East Asia, but for the broader international community, demonstrating that the pursuit of peace and the demand for security can in fact coexist. Thank you for listening.